Hello, good evening and welcome. Nice. Seems to be working. Welcome to Viewer Comments and Questions. It's just me this week because dear Daniel is in the United States of America, in Miami. Having a lovely time. I thought we'd do an hour tonight, if that's all right. Probably won't do any super chats. Just delve into the chat and see what's going on. Feverishly keeping my eye on the vital signs. All kinds of shenanigans today. Anyway, hello, good evening, and welcome, to quote, I don't know, who is that? David Frost? Maybe. Hope you all had a good week. I just need to turn it up a bit. So far, so good. Big thanks to BV for moderating and being in the chat. Thank you, BV. It's massively appreciated as always. And thanks to everyone who's joined us. Looks like we might need even more volume. Let's try a little bit more volume. It's so funny how everything changes once you go live. Nice. Completely different setup tonight, which I'll explain in a minute for various reasons. Anyway, welcome. Let's see who we've got on. We've got Scott from Baltimore on. We've got John 777 on. Greetings, Mick. Paul Matulovic says howdy. We've got Whit Anderson, who repeats Dave Gregory's salutation, which is good day. We've got Andreas Johansson from the north of Sweden, up there. Went as far as Umeå once, but never any further than that. I think it goes up quite a bit further, doesn't it? We've also got Stephen Hadfield. Is looking forward to seeing how I cope with keeping the TPS tangent strike high. I'll do my best, Stephen. Let's just make sure that we're on. Hello from Philadelphia. Gav Thorp says, Mick, have you bought a Firebird yet? No, but I have Googled a lot, Gav. Hello from Tucson, Arizona, says Doug Floyd. Mike Kelliger's just ordered a Gibson Black Beauty 3 pickup Les Paul. Nice. Look, still got the tagger on it. And North Yorkshire is on with Andy B. Hello, Andy. Nice to hear from you. Cheers from Florida, says Robert Lewis, and hello from Texas. So do let me know that you can see and hear okay. I think you can see because Howard Sinclair said, oh, Dougie's kit. It's actually our kit, but Doug plays it. Yeah. I put Dan's hat on the rack tom here just to dull it down a bit. The drums are here, by the way, because I've been rehearsing for the Blues Implosion gig on Thursday, which has now sold out. Thank you to everyone who's booked tickets. Look forward to seeing you there in Devon on Thursday. We've had a lovely rehearsal. Lovely men in the band, as they are. Right, more volume. So weird. It's so weird. It's so weird. Catherine will bring in some housekeeping presently. Right then, let's get on with it. Anyone got any questions then? George Skelly. Hello, George. George says, good evening from a suddenly sunny Helsinki. Love the Amps at Full Blast episode. It would be cool to see another focused on the smaller vintage combos, 20 watts and under, let's say. Interestingly enough, George, we filmed a show with Jesse Hoff and also Ed Olesko, a friend of ours, who brought in a whole bunch of tweed amps. And some of them, I think the smallest one we had maybe was a Deluxe, went up to a Tremolux, went up to some early Supers before they became Super Reverbs, so the earlier Supers, and ended up on a Bassman and a Twin. And really, really cool. One thing that came out of that show on Friday, doing the audio, I found it was really pleasurable and fairly easy to record the AC30 and the Bassman because, I don't know, maybe 101, 102, something like that on our dB meter. The 412, the Marshalls were just much harder. Hello, James. James, my nephew, is here. Thank you, buddy. Helping us out a bit today. If you want a sobering experience, go for a run with a 14 and a half-year-old. Yeah, left me for dead, needless to say. Okay, yeah, and anyway, the Marshall, actually, the 100-watt super bass at 100 watts is very, very hard to record in a small room. It's almost like the room gets completely overwhelmed and a load of other weird stuff starts happening. And it's, yeah, I felt that the Bassman and the AC30 were captured with reasonable accuracy. The Marshall was something else. It was just too much for this room. So back to your original point, George, smaller amps, actually much more fun to record, much easier to record in smaller spaces, I think. Housekeeping. It's a shame Dan's not here to give me some backing music for the housekeeping. Right. Thank you very much, BV, for the reminders to do things. I think we're all running. June's giveaway. Patrons. This is patron giveaway, which we do monthly. Is James in Glasgow, Scotland. James, thank you so much for entering, and big congratulations and massive thanks to Joe at Hello Sailor for the Monmouth Octave Fuzz. Thanks to Hello Sailor, Joe, and congratulations to James in Glasgow for winning it, the Monmouth Octave Fuzz. July's patron giveaway will be coming next week. Experience days. We've just fixed dates in our calendars for the next batch of experience days, and we're going to add a couple to 2024 as well. We'll be releasing the dates soon, so please keep an eye on your email. And if you're not subscribed to that Pedal Show store email updates and that pedalshow.com email updates, please do so, because if you are subscribed, or if indeed you're a patron, you'll hear about them first there. Yeah, Catherine's saying use the thatpedalshow.com one before 12 noon tomorrow. So there is time imperative on that. Why do we set them so far in advance? Because, believe it or not, people come from a long way away. We've had people from Australia, we've had people from the US, and from Europe, and from all over the place. So it's easy to set the travel plans ahead of time. Jay White. Hello, Jay. Jay says, I love the show. My question is, if I have a tube or valve amp, why or how does a compressor help? I thought valve amps inherently compress naturally. What are your thoughts? Right. In order to get any valve amp compressing, it needs to be cranked. So, or it needs to be turned up significantly, and there are different bits in the valve amp that will compress. It's usually to do with the power delivery through the, it comes in, stuff happens, input transformer, blah, 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 tubes, output transformer. And depending on how that's all going, that whole process, you get things like sag. Compression is another form of that, but the thing needs to be cranked. Plus, there are many different types of compression, so different pedal compressors sound different, different studio compressors sound different, and they do a very different job. So valve amp, tube, sag and compression is one thing, and then the effect of different types of studio and pedal compression is quite often entirely another. So that's why for example, if you had your tube amp set to a relatively clean sound at a sensible volume, you're not really going to be getting any sag or compression there to any great degree. So you may wish to add a pedal compressor to get that lovely, I don't know, Knopfler, Albert Lee, lovely, clean, compressed type tones. So that's why. Hope that explains it. Hello from sunny Copenhagen, says Cat's Music Journey. For those of you joining us late, Dan isn't here. He's in Miami. He might. So, yeah, Todd Roy. Dan is on vacay. He is indeed. He might nip in depending on what he's doing today. He went to Walt Grace Vintage yesterday, I think. Walt Grace Vintage. If you've not seen Walt Grace Vintage, guitar and car shop. Look them up online. It's unbelievable. Anyway, Dan went there, had a nice time. Come on then, let's have another question then. See if I can find one. James Blessed, hello mate. Good work. Chris Warburton says the super chat's half price since we only have Mick. I'm not going to do any super chats this week. I'm too worried about the internet falling over, and it's a hassle to deal with them if the internet does fall over. Nick Harrington wants to know, do we have any 3/4 length sleeve tees or other colours of tees making their way to the store? It's been a while for those. Yes. We used to do like a baseball tee with a 3/4 length sleeve, which was great. We haven't got any at the moment, Nick, but we could look into it. What we have got coming, actually, I haven't got one to hand, are some really cool overshirts. So they're like a work shirt with 2 flaps on the pockets, embroidered with TPS, heavy drill, twill, cotton kind of thing. And they're really nice. They're really, really nice. So they'll be coming in the next 2 weeks or so, maybe even in the next week. Right, bit grey in Southend, says Danielle Williams. Hello, Danielle. Yeah, a bit grey here too. Will we hear a little 335 to play us in, says Now Gear This. You heard a bit of it. Interestingly enough, I'm just deciding what guitars to use for the Blues Implosion on Thursday. Obviously, going to use this. My Strat. But I don't know whether to take the Les Paul or this. And I've been really enjoying playing this since I've changed the pickups in it a while back. They were the Gibson standard ones, and they got changed to Lollas. It's such a great guitar. People might want to know why I'm not playing the old 345 that I bought recently. I have to rewire it. It doesn't work in the stereo configuration, unfortunately. I thought I could deal with it, and you definitely can eke some half decent tones out of it. In fact, some really amazing tones, but they are so hard to find. And something about the stereo wiring, you might be able to enlighten me about this. Somebody might be able to enlighten me about this. In order to use the guitar in a sort of modern setting, you have to sum the pickups to mono, right? Because it's currently wide stereo. Bridge pickup goes to one side, the neck pickup goes to the other side. Which in the old days, if you use the stereo cable, you could send it to 2 channels of an amp. That's not really applicable in the way that most people play now, certainly not in the way I play. So summing it to mono via a TRS cable to a straight mono jack means that you can use both pickups. They are out of phase, which is really cool, but when you're on either the bridge or the neck pickups solely, the other one's still connected in some way because it's phasey and weird no matter where any of the settings are set. And it just sounds weird, so I need to wire it to mono. Want to keep the varitone, want to keep it out of phase from the 2 pickups, but wiring diagrams required. Anyway, so I think I might take the 335. It's well, I don't want to say it's more blues than the Les Paul, but it's more BB and Freddy than the Les Paul. Maybe not more Freddy. He played a Les Paul early days, didn't he? Freddie King. Probably best known for his 345 though. Anyway, blah blah blah. KC Cole or K Cole 4001 is on from Nova Scotia. Hello. Greetings from rainy, lush Thailand, says Miles Jury. Hi Miles. And Gies van der Esmerite is on from the Netherlands. Good. Glenn Michael Thompson says, hey Mick, where's Dan at? He is at Miami. Bienvenido a Miami. Let's see then. Any more questions coming in? There we go. Right. Brent Grow. Hello, Brent. Brent Grow has a question. What kind of drive pedals would you be looking at for a dual mono rig consisting of an AC15 and a Princeton? Okay, first off, what a great dual mono rig. Fender Princeton, I'm assuming a Princeton reverb, but anyway, a Princeton and an AC15, so both 1.6 V6 amp, one EL84 amp. Not a huge amount of headroom in the AC15, but it depends how hard you're going to drive it. So if you're using it at low volumes, right, and you're not really pushing the amps, you can pick any drive pedals that you like the character of. So whether you like a clon type thing or a muff type thing or a tube screamer or whatever it is, whatever your ear is drawn to, choose those. If you're starting to really hammer the amps, you know, with the Princeton, that's going to be anything above about 4 or 5 once it starts to get into its own overdrive. Same with the AC15. You kind of need to get a bit more choosy, because if you then choose anything with a huge amount of bottom end, for example, it's going to just mash over everything and sound woolly and indistinct. You might want that. If you don't want that, I always think that as you crank the amps more, the simpler the overdrive pedals need to get. So you want to start then moving back from your, I don't know, Thorpy warthogs and your big muffs and your things that create a lot of gain and have a lot of EQ to more simple boosts. Tube Screamer is always great because you can set it with minimum drive, maximum gain, plenty of tone, and that's that Tube Screamer mid-frequency boost, which works with any amp, I think. You could look at something like the Origin DCX boost, which gives you a few more options on a boost. One thing to definitely look at would be an Analog Man Beano boost, or indeed any Rangemaster derived treble booster that has the option for the range at which it's predominantly boosted. So take a traditional Rangemaster, for example, and you put that into the front of an amp that's not absolutely hammering, takes away all the bottom end and sounds really kind of nasal and nasty. The more you crank the amp, the more it makes sense, and the more that very, very prominent upper mids makes more sense as the boost, because the amp's about to fall over because it's cranked. What you do by hitting it with a treble booster is you cut a bunch of the bass, the amp gets more efficient in the bottom frequencies, it punches through more in the mids and the tops, and therefore you can be heard more. So that's pretty cool. But if you're not cranking the amps a huge amount, you can then flick the treble booster, Analog Man Beano boost, Joe Hello Sailor's treble booster, and there's quite a few of the treble boosters that do it. You can flick it into the more mid-range or bass range position and get a lot of that bottom end back where it just becomes a nice booster. So yeah, I'm going to say a treble booster with a adjustable range, Origin Effects DCX boost, blimey, RC booster by Exotic. Any booster that's got an EQ control on it I think will work great. And then after that, to taste. But it does depend how hard you're going to push the amps. So yeah, good luck. And a Klon, obviously, works with any amp and is brilliant. George Skelly says, is it possible that Dan creates some sort of natural electromagnetic pulse that wipes out the internet? It's fine now, he's not here. Yeah. It could be possible. It could indeed be possible. I think it's more likely to be some sort of internal gremlin that we've got, actually. We've sorted one part of it out, and the other part is intermittent, which of course is the best problem to have, isn't it? An intermittent problem, which you can't chase down. Let's see then, who's next? Tim Halligan is on from the left coast of Australia. Perth? Is that where that is? Hi from Goole, says Clarissana Fiera Sierro. Wow, I wonder where Goole is. Regularly Broken. I know how you feel. Regularly Broken says, hey Mick, looking groovy, old bean. Well, thank you. What Supro is behind you? Gotta love a Supro. My favourite is a Supreme. That, directly behind me, is a Black Magic No Reverb. One of the more modern reissues. It's probably 7 or 8 years old, something like that. 8 years old. Sounds great. It's really great. In smaller gigs, I've used it as my other amp in the wet dry thing. Sounds brilliant. Sounds great when you crank it, but actually has surprising amount of headroom, although no reverb, which is, as we know, very sad. Kay wants to know, do you still use the Maiden into the power amp setup? Sometimes. Why did I get frustrated with it? Because reverb becomes a problem. So you've got the Maiden, the power amp. You could run a digital reverb, which, yeah, I'm a big fan of spring reverb. So into for those of you not following, apologies, Kingsley Maiden D preamp. So a proper pedal preamp. And then I used to follow it with something called a Page DS, which was together the two made up a Dumbley kind of sound. Kingsley Maiden D, Page DS. And then you can run all your effects after that, which when you think about it is a bit like running all your effects in the effects loop of the amp, because these two pedals on your board are the preamp section, just the same as plugging into the front of your amp. So you can run your drive pedals before the preamps, and then there's your preamps, and you can run all your time-based effects, digital delays and such afterwards if you want. And it gives a really, really unbelievably clear, dynamic, basically the opposite of what you get from a small Tweed amp. It's just massive and dynamic and clear and amazing, especially into a decent valve power amp and a 4x12 cab split stereo. But I got very sad about the no proper tube reverb, spring reverb, without having to have loads of other problems like cables, second pedal board for the reverb unit because it's so massive, although there are some good small reverb pedals, etc, etc. So I think I ended up doing a bunch of gigs where I could only take a smaller board, and therefore having all the mucky muck made less sense. So amp, pedal board, yeah. But tonally, man, it's just, I would totally recommend it as well if you do any fly gigs, or if you're constantly using rented backline, or indeed backline from wherever it is you play, because you can just plug that whole shebang with the Maiden D and the Page DS or something similar into the effects loop return of something like a Hot Rod Deluxe or a Marshall DSL or whatever, and have infinitely more control over your sound than were you going straight in the front. So I love that approach. I think it's really great and it sounds amazing, but for the gigs I was doing, became too much hassle, is the truth of the matter. Gav Thorp. Hello, Gav. Hope you're well, mate. He says, here's a question. Is the move to Gibson an age thing? I've spent my whole life on Fenders, but at 43, I've just found a love for Gibsons. They just feel somehow more special. I kind of know what you mean. It was sort of hammered home in the Firebird episode. So I've got gunk all over my glasses. It was hammered home in the Firebird episode with Dave Gregory. And then the show you haven't seen yet, which I have edited, is the Warren Haynes video. And he's playing Dan's 58 Les Paul, you know, custom shop Les Paul throughout the whole video. And flipping heck, man, it just sounds money. And I know what you mean. I know what you mean about that. I think it also depends on your playing environment. So in here, sometimes I get really tired of playing the Strat because it is hard work all the time, especially when Dan's got the right hand of Thor and the loudest telly in the world. Just remembering to not have to hammer the guitar the whole time, especially in one's increasing years, does feel like hard work. And then you play the Gibsons and they just do 50% of the work for you because they just sound so fat and full and all the rest of it. But then the flip side of that coin, which I find is playing with the band, rehearsing for these gigs and doing other gigs, the extra 30, 40% energy I have when playing live kind of gets absorbed by the Strat, and the Gibsons can't take it, or at least they can't take that style of playing. So I have to play completely differently on the Gibsons, which in itself is a wonderful thing. And I suppose that's definitely an age thing, because it's an experience thing, isn't it? And then you start using the guitars for what they're best at. But yeah, you might be right. You might be right. There is something just really awesome about the sound of a great Gibson guitar. It just sounds money, doesn't it? It sounds money. I don't know. John Rochner or Rochner, hi John. He says, a good guitar tone in the mix doesn't necessarily sound good solo. Is that correct? Yes, it is. My goodness, yes it is. And it is, you know, it's one of the many failings of shows like that pedal show, for example. Shows like that pedal show. One of the many failings of that pedal show, there aren't any other shows like that pedal show, Dan and I be sat in here, we go for massive, fat, giant, full frequency, colossal guitar sounds all the time, and quite often really not what you want in a mix. Depending on the mix, if you play in a power trio and you've got the room, if you're using a conventional bass player or maybe an organ player or some other instrument in addition to drums, you do need to fill a load more sonic space. But if you're in a band with 2 guitars, keys, maybe some horns, I don't know, other things, then yeah, you do need to really start thinking about that. What was I listening to the other day? Something Beatlesy. Maybe it's something off the White Album. I'll remember in a minute. But you hear one of the guitars is really woolly and really fat, and the other one is like ice pick treble. Like if you just concentrate on it for a second, it's so ice pick treble you would wonder how anyone would ever have thought that could work. But of course, when you hear the track, and I apologize, I will remember what it is in a minute, it's like, oh yeah, of course, makes perfect sense. Somebody please tell me. Somebody please tell me. I'll remember in a minute. So yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Matt Keys. This is a very relevant question, Matt. Matt says, was there ever a time when you changed the length of your guitar strap? Makes a big difference from Frascanti low to Tom Morello high. Yeah, funnily enough, I've just gone up 1 notch. And I don't wholly know why. Thorpy's on. Hello, mate. He says Dan Coggins is going to send me some schematics for the 345. Thank you. Thank you. So let's see then. I think I already changed it, but yeah, about there. So maybe, see now this is too high, it would be more comfortable. And my left hand feels completely wrong there. So here, this works. Maybe I was a notch below that before. So I'm playing that because we're doing tightrope in the implosion. Yeah, maybe in between actually would be a good place. Or where the Gibson's higher, where the 335 higher. Depends how much of that you do, I suppose. I tend to be like that. But then if you have to play a can't remember the bits. Yeah, or... Yeah, so the more kind of that you have to do compared to that, maybe the higher you want it, because it's very hard to do that down there. If you do play with 4 fingers, which is unusual for me, but yeah. So yes, definitely. I guess the 335 sits naturally higher, right? Because of its the strap buttons on there instead of on here. So that does. And that feels great. But then I do play this guitar differently. Awesome. Yeah, I suppose the takeaway for everyone is try it a notch higher, try it a notch lower, which is probably what you're suggesting, Matt, and see if you feel more comfortable. Kieran Moore, hi Mick. Hello Kieran. He says, will he be reviewing the new Tube Boonar anytime soon? I hope so. I really do hope so. Yes. Trollstjern says, will you do another acoustic Paradiso with Pete? Those were so much fun. They were fun, and we love doing them, but probably not, because I don't work with four Andertons anymore, so maybe we could do it for old time's sake. Be nice to catch up with those guys. Haven't seen them for a long time. David Tompkins says, strap pipe, one should be able to play naked without scaring the front row of the audience. I don't know. Any sort of nakedness on my part would be pretty scary, I think. Andy Cooper says, try and play Mr. Brightside without the guitar high up. It's impossible. I have to swap straps mid-gig. Yeah. I can remember doing similarly the Police song, Every Breath You Take, where you've got the add 9 shape all the way through it, especially the F sharp position 1. So you're doing a big stretch, so you kind of have to be up there. Funnily enough, one of the tunes we're doing is an Archangels tune called Shape I'm In, I think it's called, Doyle Bramall and Charlie Sexton, and it's got the Status Quo type rhythm. I'm a little bit concerned I've lost all my plectrums. Anyway, I can't, maybe it's in B. So it's kind of quoey, and if you look at what happened to Rick Parfitt over the years, he kind of he had to do that in order to the. Sorry, look at me flipping doing upstrokes. And in order to play that, yeah, you do need to be up a bit. I was down on myself all day and night. Awesome. Hey. Jake's in the chat. He's playing at the gig on Thursday as well. Thank goodness. Todd Roy says, doing pretty good for the shape I'm in. Love that tune. I love a tune too. I love its sentiment. I love its sentiment. There's a few songs that we're doing where I love the sentiment. So, Mick, you've bust out a quick Albert Lee lick a few times around the 12th fret. Could you show it quickly, please? Says James Blessed. Albert Lee. Yeah, I'm not sure I know any Albert Lee licks. Yeah, I don't know about that, James. You might have to help me out a bit. Camille Jolibois wants to know nitrocellulose or... Oh, it's been retracted. It was nitrocellulose or polyester, I think. Anyway, nitrocellulose, obviously. George Skelly says, I reckon you need the strap somewhere down like Steve Clark in Def Leppard. Somewhere between your ankle and your knees seems to be his preference. I just don't know how people do that. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. It's yeah, there's definitely, I mean, in recent years there was a time, let me start by saying there was a time where you just wouldn't wear your guitar high because that was kind of not really the done thing. And then I'm trying to think who it might have been. I mean, obviously there have been loads of people over the years who've worn the guitar high. Somebody mentioned George Harrison in the chat, but in sort of contemporary pop music, it wasn't really the done thing. And then Johnny Borrell, was that his name? Razorlight, was that them? He came along and wore it high. Alex from, oh God, brilliant band. Come on, help me out. Just had it on the tip of my tongue. I keep wanting to say Archangels. Anyway, him. Really high. Had his strat really high, didn't he? Come on, somebody help me out. Frank Dunnery, says DC. Francis Dunnery, yeah. Yeah. Johnny Marr. Low slung, yeah, and you wouldn't think so, would you? You wouldn't think so. Hendrix was high. Indeed he was. And very cool with it. Arctic Monkeys, thank you, Gav. Thank you, Gav. Yes. I really rate that guy. I really rate that band. It's so funny. I don't necessarily love their music, but the artistry in the Arctic Monkeys is... They did a Jules Holland thing just recently. It's just so brilliant. It's so brilliant. What's his name? Yeah, Alex something. Uli John Roth, maybe? Yeah. Hobo Roadie says Hank Marvin, short strap, another one. Yeah, okay. Maybe I just only noticed the the players who had it low. Mark King. Right, James Blessed, Albert King, not Albert Lee. Right, well, there's a slight difference. The Albert King lick is the Stevie Ray lick. It's, let's say if you were saying around the 12th fret, so let's say we're playing in B. So if we have our minor pentatonic scale, we know that one, right? And then the Albert King lick is in this position where the root is on the B string. The Albert King Birdie song. Anyway, so you go, it's the Stevie Ray lick, right? And what they would do is they would muck around with whether it was so all across those three frets there, the 10th to the 12th fret on the top string. And then if you really want to do Albert, you have to end the song. If you could hit the strings. Oh, he did that all the time as well. So you're in B. So we got that lick, yeah? So the notes are F sharp. And then you bend the D up, or indeed the E flat up. So you're bending up to F sharp from E. And then the next fret down, up to the E maybe. So the notes you're playing are, but it's on bends. And then when he hit the 5, he would hit this, which is a great way to go from the turnaround across the 4 to the 5. So we're in B, right? And then we're going to go from the 5 to the 4. So we'll go 5, right? 4. Anyway, rendering into BB territory there. And that's it. And that's the Stevie Ray Vaughan lick, right? There'll be plenty of that on Thursday night. There you go. Hope that explains it. And then if you listen to Albert, he quite often wouldn't play it as kind of as processed as that. He would play it like he'd be bending all around that box to just, and of course remember he's upside down, and the bend is usually with his index finger, I think, and he's pulling the other way because he's left-handed, and that has a distinct sound in it itself. Anyway, Albert King, God bless him, may he rest in peace. Nice. Nick Harrington says, have you had a chance to ever go on the Epi DG 335? I have not. I love mine. It's a fantastic guitar, even if the Pelham Blue isn't exactly right. Yeah, I haven't. I'd like to. I really would like to. Benjamin Hooper says, have I missed the super chats? No, I'm not doing any tonight, Ben, because we're only on for another 15 minutes. And I just wanted to make sure that the internet was working and kind of not let anybody down. Matt Swanton says, I have to thank you, says Matt Swanton, for putting Doyle's solo work back on my radar. The Rich Man album and his album Welcome are killer. They really are. I got so much love for Doyle Bramall. Doyle too. Doyle Bramall was his father, who I think was a songwriter as well as an artist. May have even written some Stevie Ray tunes or some tunes that Stevie Ray did. Anyway, but Doyle Jr. as he is, Doyle the second, whatever he calls himself, Doyle Bramall 2. Just love him. Just love him. Just such a unique artist and completely his own thing. You know, you listen to him play and you can hear the Hendrix and you can hear the Stevie Ray and you can hear the deep knowledge of blues. Not just the people that I know about, but the deep knowledge of blues. And a producer, man, he's great. I love him. Anyway, Matt, I can eulogise about him all day long. Braden Booler says, any interest in teaching guitar lessons or a course? You seem to have a knack for it. That's kind of you, Braden. I would like to do something with an interpreter, so to speak. So for a simple Albert King lick, yeah, I can explain it. But beyond that, not really. My theoretical knowledge is very poor. And, compared to Dan's, for example, and trying to get it communicated in a way that makes sense. That's the real genius of teaching, I think. I've got various courses that I've got halfway through. I've done doing the Robin Ford chord revolution, I think it's called, chord revolution on True Fire. Also got Jack Rush's latest course, which is on a different platform. I'll remember in a minute. And I always get to about lesson 3, and then they seem to like that, the old cliche with guitar lessons. You stick in the Hot Licks video. It says, hi, welcome to the Hot Licks video. My name's Mick. And today we're going to learn the minor pentatonic. Here we go. Okay, let's go up. Okay, got that? Thanks very much. See you next week. That's how guitar tuition always goes for me. There's a point where the bit that I understand stops, and then it just, yeah. I mean, maybe it's not quite as severe as that, but that's kind of where I got to with the Robin thing and with the Jack Rouge thing. So there's got to be a way, there must be a way of bridging that gap. But goodness knows, there's enough brilliant tuition out there and brilliant teachers out there. And perhaps that's where it becomes student specific. So finding a great teacher who really understands where your bridge is going to be and can deliver that to you. That's the genius of good teaching. I think it's an old, maybe it's Buddhist, maybe it's Taoist, could even be Hindu or ancient Greek. The teacher and the student together create the learning, right? So you have to work together. Maybe. CompuCorder64 says some of the new wave post-punk and guitarist frontmen wore their guitars high. David Byrne and Ian Curtis. Yeah, interesting that. And I wonder if that's where people like Alex Kane, no, I keep wanting to say Alex Kane, maybe that's not his name. I wonder if that's where the next crop got it from, because nothing's new, is it? You sort of see your heroes and the things that inspire you, and I can hear elements of those things in those kind of bands, right through to Killers and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe. Let's come on then. Matt Swanton says, fun fact, if you didn't know, Doyle's dad, Doyle Senior, played with Jimmy Vaughan way back. Yeah, right. They're all there in the same little melting pot, aren't they? Charles Livingston says, I've been listening to backdated Q&A videos in my car for my daily commute. Awesome. Just finished through 2020. Interesting to watch you guys work through the COVID year. Yeah, it was a strange time, wasn't it? We still get the odd pithy comment on videos, because we went through that period where we had the plexi screens between us, which, you know, if for those people who, I'm trying to put this politely, were in a position to be opposed to the pandemic politically, you do get some pretty aggressive comments about the fact that we did that. And as I keep explaining to people, I think it didn't take us very long to work out that it was totally ineffective medically, but you had to do it for a number of reasons. One was legally, so anyone trying to stay in business and employ people and do all of that, rightly or wrongly, had to abide by the regulations and the rules put down. Secondly, if you were in a position of employing people and doing all of that, you know, it was really, really tough times for businesses because nobody knew what the hell was happening. So you kind of had to toe the line to keep trading, however ridiculous it now seems with hindsight. And of course, maybe not that ridiculous, because plenty of people died. Let's not forget that. So, yeah, sorry, a bit of a reflection on that. It just seems like a bad dream. And then literally 3 days ago, my neighbour tested positive for COVID. I mean, if you'd have said that in March 2020, there'd have been like, it would have been a grave occurrence. We're like, oh, have you? Great, see you later. Just, it's so mad. It's so mad. Sorry, I shouldn't dwell on that. Stratman says, I still wear a mask alone in the car. So do I, but only at night when I'm doing my superhero duties. Glenn Michael Thompson says, after almost 50 years of teaching, I found it's best to show a student how to teach themselves. Wow, that is properly deep. What's the give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach him how to fish, he'll eat for life. That's that, is it? The way I see it with David Byrne, says CompuCorder64, is that he was a kind of bit of the anti-masculine guitar hero thing. Curtis was trying to do different things differently too. Yeah, I know what you mean with David Byrne. And actually Johnny Marr's spoken quite extensively about that, about the sort of counterculture of the kind of, you know, open shirt, I don't want to say, well, go on, Jimmy Page, you know, rock god type thing. And they found that off-putting and kind of unpleasant, which is, yeah, I get it. I liked it. David Bollers says, easy for people to forget about. Thanks for the considerate response, Mick. Yeah, we have to be considerate, don't we? That's our job, isn't it? We should strive to be considerate all the time, if at all possible. No, it is possible. It is possible. Denon Rommers says, what are your thoughts on suitable electric guitars for singers? Wow. Any guitar you want, Denon. Let's see, who are my favourite singers? Joey Landreth. Plays any kind of junior, sometimes a hollow body, sometimes a Lowell type Strat type thing, so anything there. Who are some of my other favourite singers? Loads of them. I don't think it matters, does it? I mean, I would be facetious and say something dreadfully flashy so that the people notice you. I know that whenever I take my white Gretsch, sometimes for an open mic or an acoustic thing, I'll take my white Gretsch electric instead of an acoustic guitar. And guaranteed people will be like, whoa, what is that guitar? It's really cool. So that's important. Yeah, other than that, I don't think it matters. I think the guitar you should play is the guitar you like playing, and the one that, perhaps the one you forget about first, because, sorry that this is a guitar channel, but the most important thing in any music is the singing, if there is any singing. And the emphasis should be there, really. So yeah, something flashy, I would say. Unless you don't want to be flashy. But why wouldn't you want to be flashy? Okay, time for a couple more. This is a lovely question. Thank you for asking this. Ewee's Place, or it might be Ewee's Place. What was your key takeaway or most valuable lesson learned from your time with Robin Ford? Two for me. Two things that I already knew, but that sometimes are lost in the fog. One, be yourself. Always. Always be yourself. The moment you start trying to be somebody else, you're sunk. Two, play cleaner. Turn the gain down and play cleaner. Because the amount of expressive... now, I didn't say play clean, right? That's just... You can play clean, you can play any way you want, but I've got this terrible tendency, which you'll hear on Thursday night if you come to the gig, to play with too much gain, because it's easy to do when you've got loads of lovely overdrive pedals. But actually, the place where you are you is where the guitar can speak. And that is not with endless gain in the kind of music that I play. So I think, yeah, be yourself and turn the gain down. That's what I would take away from Robin. Very valuable as it was. Guil Strat says, hi Mick, is it still relevant for the earth and isolated outputs in the Humdinger if I'm using valve preamps with IR cab sims? Lots and thanks from Peru. Yes, it is absolutely still very important, because a ground earth loop hum is caused when you have multiple loops to ground. So what the Humdinger does is safely isolate one of those outputs. If you're using any sort of parallel signal path that isn't controlled by a switcher like G3, if you're using 2 amps, basically if you're going into 2 things, then having one of them isolated is really important, especially 2 amps, even with IRs and cab sims, because you'll still get it. You'll still get the ground problem. So yes, it is still relevant. Okay, let's do one more then. It's just an hour tonight, folks, with apologies. I just wanted to make sure it was all going to work and check in while Dan's on vacation, and just make sure that all our kit seems to be working again, which is boring. It's really boring. Not least that I had to change the whole computer over because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why, but it just is true. Marcus Reeves, hello Marcus, he says, have you been recording band stuff in there? No, we haven't, Marcus. I've been rehearsing for my gig on Thursday. While Dan's away, I can leave the rehearsal stuff set up, which is great. I would love to have a room big enough to have the band stuff set up all the time, but because I don't know if you can see, but when we, no, you can't see. When we have the kit and stuff in, we have to take out all the guitars because it's not wide enough to get people in. So it's a bit of a shag, to be honest, to move everything in and out. Hope you're settled into your new place, Marcus. If you haven't been following Marcus's updates on his new workshop on Instagram, go back and check. He's done a mammoth job. I hope you're all in. It's not leaking and it works, mate. Okay. Shane Lofton. Shane will give the last... We'll give the last question to you, Shane. He says, hey, Mick, I love the show. Thank you, Shane. I'm a 16-year-old guitarist and have been trying to improve my singing lately. Do you have any tips or suggestions to improve? I'm psyched for the Warren Haynes episode. So am I. So am I psyched for the Warren Haynes episode. It was very moving to have Warren here. See, now I would reiterate what I said about Robin from that question. Exactly the same thing with Warren. Be yourself, turn the gain down. And it was ace. Okay, tips on singing. Yeah. A bit like guitar, right? It's a two-way street, or at least the learning happens in the middle. So at one end you've got, it's a really good idea to learn about breathing. So get a book, do some, maybe an app, something that's going to teach you the basics of breathing, basic articulation, throat position, diaphragm control, stuff you would learn as a classical singer. That's quite important, just to have a knowledge of that. Secondly, sing a lot. And then what happens is, as those two things start to converge, that's where the real learning starts to happen, because the theory on its own is not really any good, and just belting it out all the time without really realizing how to improve is also often not very helpful. Although plenty of people have done that down the years. And then just try and sing quite a lot. The other thing you could do, if you have access to it, is find someone else who's interested in singing and sing with them and learn to sing basic harmony. And honestly, basic harmony is really easy. I was in my 30s before I understood this. But if you're playing in E major and the melody goes, okay, the harmony is going to be a third or a fifth above that. Sorry. And you can just pick the notes out of chords and melodies like that. Understand, if you know your G major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And once you understand those intervals, one of you sings that note, the root note, and one of you sings the major third. And then when that next person goes to the second, the other person sings the 4. So the harmony becomes... And what will be utterly amazing about that is it will also improve your knowledge of the guitar and chords, and the whole world will open to you, because singing basic harmony like that is super simple, and it is a brilliant, 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 brilliant way to learn about pitching, to learn about intervals and all of that. And to top it all off, the difference between an okay band and a brilliant band is the brilliant band has good harmonies. Always. It does my nutting when I go and watch a band and there's one singer. It's like, come on, there's four of you there. That chorus has got at least 2 harmonies in it. You could at least sing one. So that's what I would suggest. Sing stuff you like and sing stuff you do not like to work it out. You're 16, so you're not driving yet, depending where you are in the world. I find singing in the car is a massive help as well, singing along to records, as long as it doesn't distract you from the important job of not crashing. Yeah, I hope some of that is of use. The other thing about singing with somebody else is you'll want to keep doing it. And it takes about half an hour to get all over that embarrassment bit, you know. Oh, I don't want to sing in front of you. Just get over it. Just sing. Open your mouth and sing. It's the best thing. Okay, people. Some of us just can't sing, says K Cole. Maybe, I don't know about that. I mean, there's plenty of extremely famous people who've sold millions of records who are basically awful singers, but have a voice, have something to say and a voice to say it with. So I think we all can sing if we want to. Okay, thanks for being here, people. Bit of a truncated VCQ tonight and only 50% attendance from That Pedal Show contingent. Friday's show is either going to be Steve Rothery if we've got a couple copyright gremlins to clear, or it'll be Warren Haynes. So either way, it's a great show, and we'll see you next week. I don't think Dan is back next week, so it might be me or my Todd again, and we can update from the weekend of adventure. Thanks for being here, folks. Thanks to BV for doing the moderation. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed. Please go to That Pedal Show store. Please have a lovely week. See ya. I've got to play you out, haven't I? Okay. It's quite hard.